Bueno, buenas tardes a todos y a todas. Muchas gracias por conectaros a nuestra primer webinario de INTELE. Y antes de nada queremos pediros perdón porque ha habido un malentendido con la URL y en la otra URL, en la otra sesión, pues no tenemos ninguno permisos para haceros moderadores. Entonces, pues bueno, empezamos con la sesión y os presento un poco los webinarios de INTELE. Estos webinarios se titulan Conoce por dentro proyectos de humanidades digitales y tenemos pensado hacer pues cada mes un webinario enseñándoos proyectos interesantes que un poco nos enseñen para qué sería importante estar dentro de Clarín o dentro de Daria y qué es pues en estos proyectos europeos pues qué es lo que están haciendo hoy en día. Hoy contamos con la presencia de Maciej Ogroniczuk, del Instituto de Ciencias Computacionales de la Academia de Ciencias de Polonia, a Petia Osenova, de la Universidad de Sofía, y a María Calzada Pérez, del Departamento de Traducción y Comunicación de la Universidad Jaume I. Entonces, dejarme decir unas palabras sobre quiénes son, qué es lo que están haciendo y por qué les hemos invitado tanto a Maciej, a Petia y a María, y ya empezamos muy rápidamente con sus presentaciones, ya que vamos 5 minutos tarde. Bueno, Maciej es uno de los coordinadores de ParlaMint con Petia, y él pues trabaja tanto en las infraestructuras como Clarín como Daria. Y él ha estudiado, ha dirigido proyectos de investigación tanto sobre el análisis del discurso, de la correferencia sobre todo, y ha participado en muchos desarrollos de herramientas del lenguaje natural. También ha trabajado en discurso, en resumen automático y, como ya he dicho, es uno de los responsables de ParlaMint. Petia Osenova es de la Universidad de Sofía, de Bulgaria, y ella ha trabajado sobre todo con proyectos de e-learning y también de traducción automática. Y ella también es coordinadora de Claria o de Cadaria, que aunan pues tanto Clarín como Daria, y también es participante del User Involvement de Clarín. Y por último, tenemos a María Calzada, que es catedrática del Departamento de Traducción y Comunicación de la Universidad Jaume I y es la IP o la investigadora principal del proyecto European Comparable Parallel Corpora. Y un poco hemos invitado a estas tres personas porque van a presentar, tanto como Petia, nos van a presentar qué es ParlaMint, y en una primera parte, y en una segunda parte María nos presentará pues cómo el proyecto que tienen del Parlamento Español, pues cómo podría converger esto en esto, ¿vale? We are going to start, Maciej and Petia. It's a great pleasure for us to have you in this webinars. This will be the first webinar of INTELE. So it's over to you, Maciej and Petia. So you have half an hour to present ParlaMint.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure. Thank you for inviting us. And it's always great fun to tell you about our project, what we are doing, because as you will be able to see on the last slide, we would also like to involve you in what we are doing. So it will be great if you could contribute to what I will tell you in a moment. So it's going to be about ParlaMint. ParlaMint is the name of a mini project. How mini it is, you will find out soon. By looking at the title, you can see that it starts with 2 words, which means that it's not yet complete. It's an ongoing project. And it's going to be about comparable data, so not parallel data, but comparable data in different languages. And the data type is going to be parliamentary data. I'm Maciej, and I am co-chairing this project with Petya. You already know everything about us, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, I will have to learn how to do it. So why parliamentary data? That's the first question. It's and it's a very good question. I've been dealing with parliamentary data for 10 years. I can say it's a great resource. It's a great resource for many fields of study, not just for political studies, digital humanities, but also for NLP. I'm from this background, so I can say that it's a great source of data for different types of language models. Because it has many topics, people are talking, members of parliament are talking about different issues that are relevant to the whole country, and it's very rich. If you're thinking about finding a name of a company that was famous 10 years ago, it's definitely there. So if you have lots of such data, you can do many great things. Also, it has very rich metadata associated with just what they were saying, because they were elected, members of parliament were elected by at least thousands of people, so they had their offices, they probably have their Wikipedia pages, so we already know a lot about them. So we have information about their age, the region they're coming from, the date of birth, and all such data which you don't normally have for people doing spontaneous speech, for example. And you have to, at the same time, you have to be aware that it's a spoken channel, but not a spoken genre, what you can find in the data. It's what it's called, usually called quasi-spoken, because sometimes the speeches, the utterances are prepared, sometimes they're influenced by the political situation, sometimes they're not just reflecting what the person wants to say in this particular moment, but what reflects the position and opinion of the parties rather than their private opinion. So you have to be aware when analyzing all this data about all these factors. But at the same time, it's usually lots of data. I know it can differ from country to country, but for example, for Poland, we have the data from 100 years now, and it's 100,000, 100 million words. So it's a lot of data. But let's go to ParlaMint. We already know that it's important. It all started a long time ago. It all started in Clarin. Clarin was really interested in parliamentary data for quite a long while now. It even created a resource family related to parliamentary data. Resource families are groups or sets of related data that are of the same type, are always multilingual, and can do useful stuff with it when they are all coming together. So parliamentary data is one of the resource families. There are also parallel corpora, monolingual corpora, many different useful stuff. You can go to this link and see for yourself. And there were many activities related to parliamentary data, starting with the Traveling Campus Talk of Europe. There was a Sofia workshop Petya invited us to, working with parliamentary records in 2017. Two ELREC workshops, ParlaClarin, and even though ELREC was cancelled last year, we had this workshop and it was really successful. And there was one more workshop about how to encode parliamentary data. That's the Parla Format workshop in the Netherlands. So the community is really active. Lots of national parliamentary corpora are out there, but they're encoded in many different ways. You can't really do research without formalizing it a little bit. So that's the background we have currently. And we already started gathering the people dealing with parliamentary data around the cost action proposal. It's not yet decided whether we'll get it, and it's going to be decided in March. So, but we submitted the proposal of the ParlaMint Coast Action, Parliamentary Data and Language Technology, and I hope it's going to be successful. Some of you are already involved in that. What is ParlaMint and how it relates to all of it? It's a result of all these actions, and we just made a proposal to Clarin because it occurred that there can be some small funding to a small parliamentary data related project, so we managed to get it. It's 100,000 euro, so it's not very big project, as you can see, as compared to the number of languages that we have. And it's a short one. It was started in the 1st of July, and we end in a couple of months. Its direct motivation was to analyze COVID-related data, so to see how the pandemic is reflected in our data, and which trends, which opinions, which what kind of phenomena we can observe in the data just by comparing what has been said before the pandemic and what is being said in the parliament, in different parliaments in different countries right now. So we have two phases in the project. The first phase was really short, just a couple of months, and was about creating the guidelines and testing how it's going to work for more languages, having as the example 4 languages: Bulgarian, Croatian, Polish, and Slovene. We took parliamentary speeches, processed them. I will tell you in a while what we actually did with that, and split our corpora into 2 parts. The COVID subcorpus, that's the data from November 2019, when it all started, until now, and a reference part 4 or 5 years backwards, normally 1 term of office. It's different in different parliaments. And when we were submitting the project, we already knew that we wanted to have the second phase, and the second phase was about taking what we managed to achieve in the first phase and doing the same for more languages. And I can already say that we originally planned to have 3, 4, 5 languages. I guess we had some money because we wanted to have mini grants for these languages to be able to encode them in our format. And we didn't know whether we will be able to get 5 or more interested countries in what we are doing. But it happened that many more languages were interested, and representatives of many other parliamentary corpora were registered to the call. And then we asked Clarin for more money, they agreed, and now we have 12 more languages doing the same what we did for in the phase 1. And what we actually did is here in this slide. The idea was to get the data, the parliamentary data and metadata, and by getting them, it might mean for several countries that we can just reuse what we already have in our parliamentary corpora, but for some others, it meant just collecting the data from the web pages of the parliaments. The second point was to encode them in the ParlaMint schema. We had schema developed by Tomasz Riawec and Andrzej Panczur, and now it has schema is called ParlaClarin. Now it's ParlaMint variation because, as you could probably imagine, there were different new problems discovered and different solutions applied to this problem. So it's much more mature now than it was before. After validating the data, we encoded them linguistically with universal dependencies and named entities, and we made available the corpora through 2 concordancers and implemented 1 showcase, I would call it. That's the Parlameter. It was a Slovene company that was making available parliamentary data before in a user-friendly interface, so we thought it might be quite useful to upload our data there. It's there. but it's not a real showcase. There will be more digital humanities-based and political science-based showcases available after we gather all the data and add more ParlaMint. These are the actions which are ongoing now. 2 words about the schema. It's just to show you the links. We have this ParlaClarion schema. It's TEI based. You probably know what TEI is. It's a standard for very popular in the humanities. So it's what Tomasz and Andre did was they invented a special application of this TEI format for parliamentary data, and it's going to be an interchange format for corpora such as ours. You have now they documented it quite well, so you can click on the GitHub links here to see what's there, and you can also take a look at our corpora. There are samples. You don't have to download the whole corpus to take a look, but there is a link for you. As far as linguistic processing is concerned, we have all these linguistic layers available in our corpora. So we have tokenized and sentence split data, lemmatized, morphosyntactically annotated, disambiguated words. And as I already told you, dependency structures and named entities are recognized also in the data. For the Polish case, we had our own processing pipeline. For the other languages, we used UDPipe for that. The most important thing is that the annotation is the same for all languages, so you can compare this data when it's all the same. And we also have a serialization format that's then used in Concordancers, so it's a very, very useful and straightforward format that's converted from TEI. As far as Concordancers are concerned, so we have these 2, no sketch engine and context. The most important thing and most useful thing is that you can have a search engine for your data. So you can use your corpus query language, and for example, NoSketch can show you many useful information about your data, such as frequency list or most frequent phrases, or you can compare these 2 subcorpora that you have in your corpus, so the COVID part and reference part. I'm always showing, and you'll be able to see it for Bulgarian, I'm always showing how different, what are the most frequent phrases in the Polish COVID and reference corpus. And you can see that when you compare these 2 corpora, the COVID topics emerge. So you have coronavirus, you have masks, you have online teaching, all these kinds of things that are really relevant to what we are currently experiencing. You also have 2 links here, so you can see for yourselves, and will be even more relevant. We have all 16 languages indexed by Concordancers. The Parlameter is this graphical user interface. It's not probably really graphical what you can see here, but this slide is just to give you the link, and you can also see for yourselves. Apart from just querying your data, that's what people are always saying, that, well, it's good for linguistic people who are want to know something about post tags and words, but not necessarily about what the party said about the topic. It's a good interface for a standard person rather than a scientific person. So you can see how many members of parliament are in different parties, what they were saying, which topics were prevalent to certain parties or groups, parliamentary groups, and how it was reflected in the time frame. All these kinds of nice evaluations that are shown graphically are there. Okay, and now I'm giving the floor to Petya, who will tell you something about the showcase, let's say. Petya?
Okay. Thank you, Maciej. I hope you hear me. Hi from me as well. I also would like to thank you for the invitation. Here, just for the sake of time, we show just a very small amount of what you really can do with tools like Concordancers and also ParlaMint. But I'd like to show you something that came up from the no sketch engine Concordancer. So I know that you don't understand Bulgarian, but that's the good thing about it, because yeah, the idea is the following one. Because COVID also influences our life, right? And one of these influences, one of the bad ones, is unemployment. If I want to see in the COVID corpus the word unemployment, how it was discussed by the ladies from the, as it says in English, socialist opposition in our country, we can see the ladies themselves and who are very active, who are not. And even now we can see that, for example, they usually talk about compensations, lacking enough compensations about the people who suffer. And of course you can have some frequency list, which of course is not enough. You can go further with concurrencies of two words, not only one. But even here, we can have this compensation thing as the top topic that they used. And also, they didn't say much about the funds of taking care of unemployment. That is the place where the government comes into play. And if we go to see the addresses of women that are from the ruling party and how they talk about unemployment, again, we can see the ladies and who is most active and who is not. And here we already have the funds. I mean, how they care very much about unemployed people, and that the country, gives everything needed. And when we also go to the frequency list, of course, the top word is the fund for unemployment. And if we want to talk about compensations, yes, they come as well, but not as a top word for them. And of course, there are also other words that we can deepen our research, what is more about it, and how these words combine with other words and lead us to the main topics and subtopics in this. But it just was, a very small starting use case that can be further developed just with these collocation candidates. And of course, as Maciej said, there is very rich metadata that you can use further in Concordancers to get subcorpora on, based on the party or the gender of the politician or the period that they were participating, and there are many possibilities. Of course, you can use the links and play yourself. The good thing is that we also will have English as language that everybody can use to see what's there. And of course, we'll be happy to have also your languages. And having said that, I'll give you back word to Maciej to say how actually you can contribute.
Yes, thank you. So that's the last slide from us, don't worry. And it's about you in ParlaMint. As I already started this presentation with saying that you can be part of ParlaMint already. Of course, we can't offer you a mini grant right now because we already have 16 languages. But if you are interested in that, you can adopt this ParlaMint schema unilaterally, as they do with Euro and Kosovo, for example. So you can see what we are doing, you can play with our scripts, and you can try to convert a sample of your data into the ParlaMint format, probably download your data if you don't have your corpus already, and do what we did with our languages. Try to use our schema, take a look at our guidelines, and play with our data just to see how you can get ready for being ParlaMint compatible. And if you can do it right now, we won't be able to help you much. I'm sorry, really sorry to say that, but Tomasz Ariavec, who is the main point of contact here, is really overwhelmed with work and wouldn't be able to take care of 3 or 4 more languages, at least until the end of May, because we have to deliver our project to the end. But we can take a look at a small look at your data, probably help you a little bit, maybe not include already your language in all our showcases and ParlaMeter and Concordancers. But if you're interested, we are there, and we are also interested in having more and more languages ParlaMint compatible. So please take a look at what we are doing and be with us. Thank you very much. And now it's time for questions, or we save questions for the end?
Yeah, I think we can follow with Maria's presentation. At the end, we can make some questions. Yeah. Maria.
Okay, so it seems to be now my presentation, and my name is Maria Calzada, as Mikkel already said, and I'm going to present the European Comparable and Parallel Corpora heading towards ParlaMint. So we're knocking on ParlaMint's door, and at present we are observers, and we've already finished the first bunch of our XML annotation, but more on that maybe in questions and answers. Okay, so I'm here on behalf of the European Comparable and Parallel Corpora team, the ECPC team, as you can see, and these are the members of the ECPC team. So you can see there at the top in black and white and with a red blob, Celia Rico, who is from the European University in Madrid, and she's an expert in information technologies and also the study of representation of my immigration. At the bottom, Maria del Mar Sanchez, who is actually with us today. She is from the Universidad de Alcalá, and she's also an expert in information technologies and the representation of social issues. Just below Celia, you can see Beatriz by the sea. She applies corpus-based methods to you see pedagogical questions, didactics basically. And to the right, an interpreting studies scholar, Maria Jesus Blasco from the Universitat Jaume I. Like myself, I am a translation studies scholar. Okay, and so these people are also there helping us. You see in green students who are producing the PhDs or heading towards the PhDs. You have people from the European Parliament or European Commission in blue. Those names, Alberto, Maria Messias or Josep Bonet, are from the European Commission and the European Parliament. In orange, we have help from experts in statistics like Václav Brezina from the University of Lancaster, or Andrew Hardy, who is a real, very good computer analyst from Lancaster as well. Fernando Gabarron was a student, and he is now working in Hong Kong in also parliamentary speeches, but in China. And then below, Ines Rodriguez is a technician and just a new addition. So now you have an idea of our group. We are not a very big group, but we have we started a long time ago, especially in Spain, the UK and Ireland. Members have changed now, because initially we had people from Manchester, like Mona Baker with her tech project on translational English corpus. And initially we also had people in Dublin like Dorothy Kenny or Nino Luz, who actually trained us to produce the metadata and all that. But the team you saw in the previous screen, and you see, theoretically speaking, we use systemic functional linguistics, translation studies, and corpus linguistics, basically. Currently, you see, Matiek said their project was very small. Our project, as you can see, is even smaller because we have over 40,000 euros for 4 years. And our funding is devoted to studying the representation, the original translated and interpreted representation of the refugee crisis. So that is our main goal. But of course, we've had other funding from 2005 up to the present moment. And what we've been doing, and very briefly, so in the same way ParlaMint collects parliamentary data, we have been collecting parliamentary data for some time now. We have data from the Congreso de los Diputados, the Spanish chamber, CD, from 2004 to 2014. We have data for the House of Commons for the same span of time. And we have data for the European Parliament. And for the European Parliament, you know, there are 24 different languages. We have the English and Spanish versions of European parliamentary speeches. You see, we have, for the European Parliament, we have speeches from 2004 to 2011, because in the year 2011, the EP decided to stop the translation of parliamentary proceedings, and that is why we cannot compile corpora through proceedings. So we now have to download, and that's what we're doing now. We're downloading videos, and we are transcribing videos, and we are tagging videos now. So this is basically what we have, and at present we have corpora with over 100 million words, which is quite okay. Okay, let me tell you a bit about the tools we have been using. I know I'm going a bit fast, but I want to show you a fair bit, not everything, but a fair bit of what we have been doing. So the first thing we did is collaborate, test, if you want, this concordancer produced in Ireland by Nino Luz, what that we call the ECPC concordancer, and that is being used in Manchester. The name they use there is the tech concordancer. This ECPC concordancer was very basic initially. So you see your lines, your sentences, your concordances, and then you also see a bit of sort of frequency information. Now, only recently, Manchester has started to improve on that concordancer, and they do nicer visualization facilities nowadays, as you can see there. They are very creative, and Nino Luz is the soul behind all this creativity. So we we tested, and we helped. Why not? We helped to improve this ECPC concordancer, but we've also worked with another concordancer, another tool, another interface developed in Norway. Norway has really very good programmers and people that are doing interfaces and work with corpus or with corpora. And the tool that we particularly used was Glossa, developed at the University of Oslo. We liaised with Anders Knoklestad. Glossa is a bit more complicated, more sophisticated than Conc ECPC, because you could have bilingual concordancing, so you could have one sentence in Spanish and one sentence in English, and of course for European Parliament material that was essential, but you also had the possibility to do subcorpora according to our different XML tags. So subcorpora according to gender, according to birthplace or birth country or place of origin, according to political parties, and so on and so forth. So that is the second tool we have used, tested, and contributed to improve. And this is a third one. And I think this is the most powerful one. This is what we call ECPC Web. And it is within the CQP Web constellation. The CQP Web was designed by Andrew Hardy, and you see it is very, I think, very nice, very neat and very powerful concordancer or interface. This is our particular tool. You can see our different corporate there. And if you query immigration in the House of Commons, this is what you get. You see, so your common sentences, line after line, so that you can see how the word is used in a small co-text, as we call it. Then if you click immigration in the European Parliament, this is what you get. But of course, this allows me to also show that you can then double click on the word itself and you get more information about the larger context in which the word appears. And you can also get information about the metadata for the speaker. So that particular speech was uttered by an Italian MEP called Mario Mauro from San Giovanni Rotondo, who was born in 1961. Finally, if you query immigration in the Congreso de los Diputados, in the Spanish chamber, this is what you get. But this allows me to show you the fact that you see the CQP Web constellation is very powerful for statistics. And I do highly recommend this tool for statistics. And that, you see, gray window has many possibilities for the study of language. Okay, so how have we got here? How did we get here? Well, we devised our own methodology of compilation. And of course, you know it all because it is a very, very, very basic method of compilation. But I want to show it to you because we are very proud. You see, we are linguists. We knew nothing about programming or even about new technologies, but we have managed to produce corpora on our own. So we do everything on our own. Sometimes we ask analysts, computer analysts, but we are able to do this. We are autonomous in our compilation. And in fact, I am compiling the material for ParlaMint on my own, actually. So you see, what we do is we compile HTML documents and we do a bit of file managing, and then we translate the HTML documents into XML. we validate that, and then we align the corpora. We only align material for the European Parliament, of course, because we have an English version, we have a Spanish version, and we have to align it so that then we can query and words and have the Spanish and English sentences one next to the other. And so you see for the translating from the HTML to the XML, we use very basic scripts based on regular expressions. Our XML is TIA informed. It is not TIA compliant or fully compliant, but it is TIA informed, which it makes me optimistic about converging towards ParlaMint. And okay, so in the same way they've done in ParlaMint, we tag different things: the structure of the sessions, the text itself, and the speaker. And for the speaker, we tag the name, the status, the country of origin, the constituency, the gender, the post of the speakers, the date and place of birth, and the political party. And that is basically what we tag. So you see, it is somehow very, very similar to what ParlaMint are doing, maybe in a different form, but I do not think we are going to find it very difficult to converge. And for the aligning, I'm showing you what we do. So we link sentences, one sentence in Spanish with one sentence in English, and we use the TCA2 tool devised in Norway by Knut Hofland, and we integrate that tool into Intertext so that we can revise the automatic aligning between English and Spanish. So why? And that is how I'm finishing now. I know it's been a bit long, but I'm about to show you 4 things that you can do with this material. As Maciek said, while parliamentary data is very rich for language use, and it's very rich for political reasons, for ideology. So you can produce synchronic studies on language and language use. You can, for instance, check the overlap between chambers. So if you compare the House of Commons and the European Parliament, regardless of whether you're using original or translated material, you have a 40% overlap. And if you compare the House of Commons and original English from the European Parliament, you have a 35% overlap. And if you compare original English from the European Parliament and translated English from the European Parliament, you have a 60% overlap. So you see that language use is more similar within the EP than vis-a-vis what happens at the House of Commons. And so maybe there is some proof of Euro jargon there. So that is a synchronic study of language. We could also do diachronic studies on language use. So if we concentrate on globalization, that term can be translated in Spanish as mundialización and also as globalización. Well, up until pretty recently, the Spanish Royal Academy of Language discarded or discouraged actually the use of globalización. They preferred mundialización. It was the Spanish term after all, and they wanted us to use mundialización. At the European Parliament, they were using mundialización mostly in 2005, but as you can see, in a matter of 3 years, 2008, mundialización has already lost the battle, and now globalización is everywhere in EP speeches. And we can also produce, and with that we finish, synchronic studies on ideology and diachronic studies on ideology. So synchronic studies on ideology, remember that in the year 2005, the European Constitution was discussed at the European Parliament, but also in national chambers. You know that the Constitution did not succeed, but there was heated discussions everywhere. So let's see what happened in 2005 at the European Parliament. You see, the term constitution is not positive or negative per se. It can be used in a positive or a negative manner. So if you read the sentence in the green cloud, lastly, I congratulate the ECB on its sound decision to support ratification of the Constitution. Well, that is a favorable comment on the Constitution. The Constitution is used in a favorable environment, if you want. And then if I read the sentence in the red cloud, I would urge those of you who support the Constitution to display a similar respect for the democratic process, well, that is used in a negative, disfavorable, really, manner. You could also use Constitution in a neutral way. The draft report refers to the draft treaty establishing a constitution for Europe. That is in the blue cloud. Okay, so let's see what happened at the European Parliament, and let's see what happened with conservative speakers. This is conservative speakers speaking in English. This is English originals at the European Parliament in 2005. So you can see conservative speakers were mostly against the Constitution or a Constitution for Europe. So that's why the red part is marginally larger than the green part. Now, on the contrary, socialist speakers, socialist MEPs were overwhelmingly in favor of the Constitution. Let's see then what happens at the House of Commons. Well, at the House of Commons, you see this very negative impression of the European Constitution by conservative speakers, and this relatively positive, not fully positive impression or opinion or use of Constitution by Labour, therefore socialist, if you want, politicians. And finally, what we can do is we can see how concepts, notions, issues have developed over time. And if we concentrate on the crisis, the economic crisis that we went through during the first decade of the 21st century, if you remember, in the year 2005, Europe was going through an economic boom, and there was a euphoria, although experts say there were already some signs that a crisis was approaching. In the year 2007, we had the subprime case, these toxic financial products that appeared in the US initially and that were discussed on televisions, of course. And by 2008, 2009, 2010, we were in the midst of a great recession. Well, let's see how this developed at the European Parliament. You can see that in the year 2005, that's the first column, 2008, that's the second column there that you can see. Crisis was not a particularly significant concept or word at the Parliament. It was not a key word at the European Parliament. It was only from 2009 onwards that it appears as a key word, as a particularly characteristic word. So you see, and when that word is used, well, you can see that in the year 2008, it is used in this bundle, the financial crisis in particular, or in this bundle of the crisis. Now, remember that the crisis started by being financial and then it became economic, by the way. But if we study of the crisis and if we read all the sentences that have of the crisis in them, then you can see that in 2008, people are describing the crisis. They are describing the beginning of the crisis mostly. in the year 2009. They are now talking about the economic crisis, the financial crisis of the crisis. So now the crisis by 2009 has turned into an economic crisis. And if you read all the sentences with "of the crisis" in them, you can see that now other things are being done. People are discussing the consequences of the crisis or how to find a way out of the crisis. Something very similar happens in 2010 with a very interesting point. Yes, in 2010, they are discussing the consequences of the effects. They are discussing the way out or how to get us out of the crisis, but they are also being more precise, and they are now beginning to inquire about the effect that the crisis has on women, for instance. So this is the end, really, but I don't want to stop here. I just want to say that now we are moving towards, at ECPC, towards the study of the representation of issues that have a social impact. And of course, our main goal is immigration or refugees. My colleagues are busy with the study of immigration and refugees in different parliaments, but I was really very excited with ParlaMint, and I keep knocking on their door, and that's why I've already compiled the 2019-2020 corpus of Congressos speeches, and I will be studying the representation of COVID in a very immediate present or future. You have some of our work here, and with that I finish. I thank you for your patience, and I apologize if I've been a bit too fast. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Mathieu, Betty, and Maria. And we see a lot of very interesting results of your project, and we are willing to collaborate with you and to add some new languages in ParlaMint. So now it's time for questions or comments, and we are going to send you from the chat a small satisfaction survey if you want to give your opinion or suggest another talk. Let me say that this is the first series of the webinar, INTELE's webinar, and we are going to have other webinars in the following months. The next webinar will be about a programming historian. We are going to have other also, for example, from the Biblioteca Nacional de España, how researchers can get data from there, or also Kim Dubrowski from Stanford will be with us discussing the future of the humanities and also other topics. So if you have some questions, comments, please, it's your time. You can, yeah, Nuria, please. Yeah, Nuria, can you speak now?
Sorry, it takes a while to switch everything on. Hello.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you very much to the three of you for these very nice presentations. I'm really interested on all what you have been done. I have a question for Maciek. It's about the encoding or the annotation. You said that all these corpora is being annotated with universal dependencies using the UD pipe. Are these files corrected manually? Because the quality of the annotation is sometimes is not fully correct. So are you, there's an intention of correcting it manually, or just as they are resulting from the UD pipes? Thank you.
Thanks for this question. No, first of all, I'm aware that the results are not really satisfactory. That's why for Polish we used our language-specific solution rather than UDPipe, because it's a little better than what UDPipe offers. But as you can imagine, the project is really short, so we don't have time or money for any manual work there. So it was intended to be fully automated. And that's what I can answer.
My question is because I'm really interested in contributing with Catalan Corpora there, and I was wondering to what extent the annotation with dependencies is a must, or maybe there is the possibility of contributing with part of a speech obtained with a better accuracy system.
Yes, I probably we have to ask this question to Tomasz, but I guess we wanted to have it uniform, and that's what we promised in the ParlaMint application. So this is what we want to have, and I guess it's always better to have it uniform, and even if it's not perfect, it won't be perfect. Before we do it manually, and even then probably not. So I guess it's better to have it the same for all languages, because then you can build some scenarios on top of that for different languages. When you have a scenario that deals with dependency structures, it's probably better to have them rather than thinking, oh no, this language and that do not have them. So I would say that, but
okay, I understand.
Maybe Petya can say something more or something different than what I'm saying. But
Hi. No, I will back up on this, and I would say that for Bulgarian, for example, the UDPipe is better than our own pipe at the moment, and maybe also because it was trained in the context of other Slavic languages, right? So it's good to have some hubs like for different languages that they can benefit from this. And that's why the Slovene, Bulgarian, and Croatian corpora were annotated in this way. So it depends.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
More questions, comments?
Well, I would like to thank Mikel and the INTELE group, because they are really very exciting people, and they keep organizing many exciting things. But on this issue, I think that probably the main problem we have, and the reason why I'm so excited about ParlaMint and Clarin, is that it is a good idea to converge. That is why using same tools, similar procedures is important, because at present at least I'm working on my own here in Spain. Some of the people are working in Poland, in Bulgaria, doing exciting things, similar things, but because I was isolated here, then you see we do not converge. So I think converging is very important on Nuria's question. I would say that.
Yeah. If I may say, I agree. I fully agree with you. My concern is about the quality of the results, is because when offering this type of corpora to humanities researchers, they don't understand the mistake. So, and this is a major concern to me, because normally they get blocked when they get some mistakes. And so for a while, although I agree with you that convergence and having more data is for sure better than no data. But still, I think that, for instance, for Catalan, that the accuracy of the UDPipe is about 80%. Maybe this means that there is no single sentence without any error. And this, I'm not sure if without any explanation, this can be wearable by researchers. So, because at the end, there are some mistakes. Obviously, well treated, it can be So it's not an unsurmountable problem. It can be solved, but you need to explain that. This was my bit of concern. And I was thinking that maybe lowering the expectations so that maybe that not really dependencies are annotated, but only part of a speech that nowadays are for sure they have a higher accuracy could be better. But I discuss with myself every day. So when saying, okay, you cannot refrain people from getting what they is, and I say, well, but they are blocked when they don't understand the mistake. So I am still discussing. So I really appreciate both your point of view. I agree that it's better to converge, and obviously if it is also to reduce the amount of time our researchers need to invest in the very nice topics, for instance, Maria, that you have presented, which are really very exciting. And probably these tools and this corpora could facilitate very much the research of many people by reducing, I don't know, not that half, more than a half the time invested for research. I think, yeah, it's very interesting.
And I agree with you, Nuria, totally. In fact, I discuss and I quarrel with myself. And in fact, at ECPC, we do not have sophisticated forms of annotation, linguistic annotation, because of that. We have explored POS annotation, but even then, you see, we don't really use it that much. We need it for the CQP web constellation, but I agree with you totally there as well.
Yes, you have to balance it somehow, and for example, when you want to sell it commercially, it's even probably even more difficult than with linguists who can understand that it's not always perfect. But when you go to the commercial world and say, oh, it's 85%, then they calculate and say, yes, just what you said, that every sentence will have its problems, and they don't buy it. But that's the way it is. From my point of view, from the NLP point of view, I can see that the best progress that we are experiencing right now, also because of the deep neural networks and the hardware and everything, is also related to this shift of paradigm, that we are ready to accept solutions that are not perfect but are available for lots of languages. So it started with machine translation, maybe not started, but that's a good example. When you can translate from and to 100 languages, we know that it's not perfect, but it's getting better and better. And we started it, and we can get quite a good quality right now, just because it started several years ago with such a low quality. But that's a different discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to say that I think that Nuria is right. You can use your resource at the level that you trust it, right? For example, even with the metadata alone, you can already give a lot to be used by the people, right? And if part of speech is the best to this level until you have the next one for a very interesting language, it would be better to do. I mean, you are completely right. I agree with you on this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have passed 5 or 10 minutes from the hour, so it has been a great pleasure to have you here in this in the first webinar of INTELE. So I think we will follow discussing ideas and asking help to you, to ParlaMint and Maria, with you also working together. So have a nice afternoon, and thank you very much for coming here. We are going to put your slide in the INTELE's website, and also this the recording of the first webinar. So thank you very much, and hope to see you soon in world, not in digital conference. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for hosting us in this historical moment. We are great.
Thank you. Thanks also.
Bye then.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.